Today, I want to talk about the possibility of Nintendo announcing one more big thing for 2023. We all know that Nintendo is getting ready to wrap up this rather successful year for them. Even though they're in the 7th year of the Switch sales, it's somehow they're still selling it like hotcakes, and they have a lot of positive momentum from a business perspective, leading us into what we believe will be the transition year into new hardware, which is 2024. Now, you might stop and think that clearly Nintendo has no other announcements up their sleeves. We saw the last Nintendo Direct presentation in September, and we probably shouldn't expect anything until February. However, we already have a little bit of a track record of some surprise announcements that have dropped since that September Nintendo Direct, most notably with the new Pokemon DLC that is going to be out on December 14th with Part 2 of the Area Zero DLC, which is known as the Indigo Disc. And that was a big surprise because when many people saw the slide that said Winter 2023, a lot of people, including myself, assumed that Nintendo was kind of loosely aiming for 2023, but really they meant winter in the sense that it can go into the next year, so probably a February or maybe even March launch in 2024. Well, no, Nintendo decides to drop that in December instead. We also recently got the announcement that Jet Force Gemini is being added into Nintendo Switch Online for expansion pack members on the N64, which you might say is not really a big announcement because it's just an NSO update, but it is a rare game that they had to license rights with Microsoft and come to an agreement to bring that game over to the service, and it's also something that is a December project that they just came out and surprise announced. And mind you, they are not finished doing their communicated roadmap, which is still missing the addition of 1080 snowboarding to Nintendo Switch Online, which is kind of going off script for Nintendo. At least it's something new that we haven't seen them do with the service so far. And so there is one more event coming up in December that has a track record with new Nintendo announcements, and you probably know where I'm headed with this. We are talking about the Game Awards on December 7th that we know Nintendo historically has announced new things at. Now, there is definitely an up and down track record with how big or notable their announcements have been at this presentation, and there's even been certain years where from a first-party Nintendo perspective, they have sat out the event entirely. But I will tell you that amongst all of the various rumors and reports that there could be some finished projects sitting on the shelves ready to be announced at any given time, I do think there's at least some likelihood that we see Nintendo either announce something for early 2024 or do a surprise shadow drop at this event, especially considering that they are the most nominated publisher walking into this presentation, and that is a big deal for Nintendo. You might say that since Reggie Fils-Aimé isn't the Nintendo of America president anymore, there's probably not as good of a relationship with Nintendo of America and Jeff Keighley at the Game Awards, but I would say that Nintendo still knows that this is a massive show with a ton of eyeballs on it. We've seen them do things as big as reveal the gameplay for Zelda Breath of the Wild. Granted, they were in a very different situation there from a marketing perspective. That was a game that was being developed for the Wii U at the time, which of course was a failing console for Nintendo, and they are now playing from a position of power, but I still think it stands to reason that Nintendo likes to show up with something at these events more often than not. Just last year, we didn't expect hardly anything at all, and we did get the announcement of Bayonetta Origins, a brand new game that would come out in March of the following year. That was first revealed to us at the Game Awards. At that same event, we saw Fire Emblem Engage Expansion Pass, which is DLC for the game, of course, revealed at the Game Awards as well. But instead of walking through every historical announcement that we've seen Nintendo reveal at the Game Awards, I actually want to shift the conversation to what we could see them reveal potentially this year, and make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on your bell notification to join Sunbro Nation if you haven't done so already. And with that, we have to unpack some of the ongoing rumor mill speculation talk, and keep in mind, none of this is confirmed from Nintendo. We are talking about various different leakers, reporters, and some industry insiders, quote unquote. I know that word gets overdone, but we're talking about people that could potentially have knowledge of projects that Nintendo is close to revealing or could be in the pipeline somewhere. And one rumor I've seen ramp up a lot recently is the possibility of a Zelda Ocarina of Time remake. I don't know the exact origins of where this is coming from, other than I know there were some vague hints from Eiji Aonuma where he was mentioning how players nowadays that are playing Tears of the Kingdom probably don't know who Rauru really is, and if you know anything about the story of Tears of the Kingdom, he's a pivotal character within that story. And while there's a town named Rauru in Zelda 2 Link's Adventure, he really makes his first major debut in Ocarina of Time, and we've seen Eiji Aonuma tease little things like that in the past, and then surprise, a game actually drops. He's done it with Skyward Sword HD. He's done it with numerous other titles in the past. I believe Majora's Mask 3DS version, he mentioned the same kind of hint, and then it drops. It is also notable that as of November 21st this year, Ocarina of Time celebrated its 25th anniversary. And while we didn't see Nintendo really acknowledge that in any way, shape, or form, it's not out of the realm of possibility that they're going to announce something like a remake in the 25th anniversary year and market it as part of that 25th anniversary for that timeless classic of a game that really brought gaming into 3D with a lot of the mechanics that we enjoy today as an afterthought. Ocarina of Time put some of that stuff on the map, and Nintendo knows what it did to gaming culture as a whole. Now, I am actually less on the Ocarina of Time train personally. I do think Nintendo will revisit that one day, and we will indeed see a remake or remaster of it, because I still feel like it got remastered on the wrong console, which is the 3DS. We should have it playable on a large screen TV. That's at least how I feel about it, but I do feel like there is at least some level of possibility that the long rumored Wind Waker and Twilight Princess will show up at some point in time. I'm not saying it's at the Game Awards. It is a possibility that the announcement happens there, but I do think that those would likely be the next Zelda titles in the holster to kind of hold us over while Nintendo is developing their next major Zelda game that I wouldn't expect for 5 to 6 years minimum. It could even be longer than that, but we've obviously seen the development time for every mainline 3D Zelda game take longer and longer over the course of history, and there's no reason to expect it to go in the opposite direction at this point in time. So is it finally time for Wind Waker and Twilight Princess? It's entirely possible. I don't know the likelihood of Nintendo showing up with a major first-party game at the Game Awards, but it could indeed happen, and maybe they feel like since there's not going to be Tears of the Kingdom DLC, according to Eiji Aonuma himself, that they want to supplement Zelda fans with something else. It's a possibility. Those are also big games that can help sell on the current gen consoles, and Nintendo could turn around and do a dual release or even re-release them on the next gen console shortly after it's announced. Now next we have the Metroid question. Will we see anything from Metroid Prime 4 at this event? I don't think so personally. I think Nintendo will do a blowout reveal for Metroid Prime 4 at a mainline direct when they are ready, and it will likely be the show closer of the event. I do, however, think there is a small chance that they mention Metroid at this event and they thank fans for their patience on Metroid Prime 4, but they give us Metroid Prime 2 and 3 as a surprise shadow drop that hits on the eShop that day, because Nintendo is taking a very interesting marketing approach to Metroid this time around, and we know that with the release of Metroid Prime Remastered on the Nintendo Switch, which also saw a shadow drop. Now, I am more in the mindset that it's more likely to see this announcement take place at a February Nintendo Direct. I do think that 2 and 3 are coming. If the rumors are true, according to Jeff Grubb and many others within the know that were also the ones saying that Metroid Prime 1 Remastered was coming, and of course we now know that was a real project because you can play it currently, well, 2 and 3 were supposed to be getting the not big boy remaster, quote unquote, but rather a more simple HD upres from the GameCube ported over to the Nintendo Switch. I am thinking very Pikmin 1 and 2 style visuals, where it really is the same base game. It's not completely redone with the lighting and the effects and everything reworked from the ground up, but rather it is something that will be an HD upres of the existing textures that we have seen in those games, and they won't look quite as visually impressive. And so maybe Nintendo does sell it at the same $40 or even $50 or $60 price point, but it's both games included in the pack, not one. So I could very well see them doing that. I could very well see them announcing a shadow drop release where you can download it on the eShop, but then the physical release comes later. That is on the table here for this event, but again, I'm setting my expectations on the lower side. Now, the last thing that I want to go over with you all is really just the miscellaneous announcements. There's probably some kind of smaller project that we don't know about from Nintendo that could shadow drop, or even DLC that will be announced that we just aren't thinking about right now. Unless if Nintendo Switch 2 shows up at this event and they reveal their new console there, which I don't think will happen at all, I don't think we're going to get a mainline AAA 3D Mario announcement. What's the future? Is it Mario Odyssey 2? Is it something entirely new? Are they going to go back to Galaxy and it's Galaxy 3? Who knows? I don't think anything massive like that will be here. I think Nintendo has really formed a habit of controlling their own major announcements within their own timeline and within their own YouTube schedule and their own release with these direct presentations. So I really wouldn't expect anything massive like that to be here. I do think that some unannounced DLC, maybe we get some kind of surprise that Mario Party Superstars is going to get additional boards and mini games, and that's announced. announced here. Maybe we see more updates on existing titles that we know are in the pipeline, like Princess Peach Showtime, and they show us more of that game at this event. But that's kind of where I'm setting my expectations, although I would love to be wrong about it. I would love to see something massive announced here that every Nintendo fan can get hyped about, but I would definitely set your expectations on something smaller being revealed here from Nintendo, like DLC, like a third-party game that we're not necessarily thinking about, or maybe it's even first-party Nintendo published, but just a smaller title, not the Zelda, Mario, and Metroids of the world. Although there is a possibility that they're there, I am more on the side of the fence that we're going to be walking away somewhat underwhelmed as Nintendo fans, but we should likely expect a lot of really fun, exciting new trailers and announcements for the gaming community as a whole from this presentation. But that's where I really want to hear from you guys at this point in the video. All your personal thoughts and predictions around what will be at the Game Awards 2023. Do you think that there's any credence to any of the rumors that suggest that an Ocarina of Time remake or Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD potentially showing up here, or even the Metroid type of announcements are likely to take place? Or do you think that it will be much smaller Nintendo style announcements and potentially something on the DLC front? And what do you think it will be at the end of the day? So regardless of your thoughts and feelings on everything we talked about today, I do look forward to hearing from you all in the comments down below before you leave the video, as I do look forward to getting a back and forth conversation started with you all around these topics. Go watch yesterday's video next if you haven't already, which is on screen right now. Also make sure you like, subscribe, turn on your notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.